Hey guys, so today let's chat about Botox dilutions, how you're diluting it, what you're diluting it with, how big of a spread size that will actually give you when injecting, depending on what type of ratio of dilution you're going to be using. So stay tuned for today. We're going to learn all about it. I'll catch you guys in a minute. So when we get our Botox from Allergan, what we actually have is a fine little mist at the very bottom of the bottle. That is the actual botulinum toxin in itself. So we have to reconstitute that and keep it cold once that comes in. So how we reconstitute that, it will determine, think of that as your spread, okay? So if we did do a 1-to-1, meaning I am going to reference as 100 units of Botox to 1 cc or 100 units of solution. So what I use is bariostatic normal saline. I find that that doesn't actually burn as much as when using just normal saline. So what we do in the med spa is we do 2.5, which is Allergan's recommendation. And so we'll go over today what type of spread that actually gives us. I'll show you where I also will reconstitute in a different way, like a 1-to-1 or a 4-to-1, depending on what areas I want to inject on. So let's get into it. So as you can see here, this is a really good indication for the amount of spread your Botox will do. So as for a 1-to-1, think of it like an eraser from a pencil. For a 2-to-1, think of that like a dime size. When we're at a 2.5-to-1, that's typically what I like to run for most parts of the face, we're at more of a nickel size. And then when we go 4-to-1, we're more of that of a quarter size. Now this is going to be really important when we want to place this type of dilution in different areas. So for example, I will use the 1-to-1 when I am doing the masseters or when I'm doing brow shaping. Or sometimes with really small foreheads. But typically speaking, I will use my 2.5 solution when I'm doing pretty much the Allergan recommended 64 units in the 3 indicated areas. That would be our glabella, our forehead, and also the eyes. All right, so even though we are giving the generalized size of the different dilution ratios, I want you to take a couple pro tips into account. So it really will depend on how fast you are delivering the units. So think about it like this. If I go ahead, I inject a forehead, for example, and I just put a very small amount of pressure to deliver those units very gently, slowly, I'm gonna have a very specific spread in that localized area. However, if I go into the forehead and I just push down on that plunger really fast, you're going to have a huge spread that just kind of fills that area. Okay, so think about the speed that it's delivered in. So again, I like to use the 2.5 dilution ratio. It gives me about a nickel spread more or less when delivering nice and slow. And the reason I like that is because when I can deliver to the forehead, I want to really maximize the evenness throughout. So what I mean by that is, think of the Olympic rings. The Olympic rings, they go around here. We'll put a picture up. There we go. They all touch each other and they all slightly overlap. Now, when I put that up towards like a forehead, for example, you can see there, you're going to get a really nice spread throughout the forehead. That way we can truly control the contractility and have minimal overall negative response like ptosis or unevenness. So think about those couple key pointers for pro tips when you are delivering the different dilution ratio. Stay tuned. Next, we'll come up with some medical math. I know you're excited for that. So we will stick to Allergan recommended dosing of a 64 unit full face. So that is our 3 areas, glabella, frontalis, and lateral canthus or crow's feet. So I know I need 64 units. So if I take 64 units and I multiply that by the dilution ratio, you're gonna get some crazy number, okay? So think of it in a way that makes more sense to you. How much do I need to pull up into the actual syringe? That would be equivalent to the amount of doses per Botox I want to place at each site, okay? So the way that it works out when you are using a 2.5 dilution ratio is that for every 4 units of actual billable Botox, you are going to push 10 units out of your syringe. So if we go for 4 units at every injection site, so 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 for the complete glabella, that would equal to 20 units I want to spread. So what that would equal to in the amount of volume you are pushing out of the syringe with a 2.5 dilution ratio is actually 50. So we know that we are pushing 10 units in the dilution ratio of 2.5 at every site. The way that it makes it a little easier is taking, if I want to put 20 units through the glabella, multiply that by the dilution ratio number 2.5, and that comes out to be 50. The same thing, I will put 20 units across the forehead, so I know I need to pull up another 50 and deliver 10 units per site. I like to do 5 sites, give or take, depending on the forehead. And then we want to deliver 12 units around each lateral canthus, depending on the spread and if it's a full flare or kind of half flare amount of contractility of the crow's feet. So I will do again 12 times 2.5 is 30. So if I do 10 units out of my dilution syringe of 2.5, I know 10 units per each, that is 12 units. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll chat soon.